Welcome back to our Successful Events Open course. We will learn today about event budgeting and how to create an event budget that is actually helpful and not just a bureaucracy. Hit thumbs up if you want more event related content. Make sure you have subscribed to the channel too. Hello there everyone! If you remember our first lesson, the welcome lesson, I mentioned that you would see a fun budget, right? Well, I hope to accomplish this today with a new budget proposal that I have been teaching and that has helped me a lot when it comes to conducting my events. The ladder of budgeting. Good financial management is essential for the final delivery of the event. My advice is simple. Plan ahead, be realistic, always keep a good error margin in your budget and implement control mechanisms that work for you. How to start your event budgets? From the beginning, make sure you have a realistic budget with flexibility to make decisions and contingencies. If you are organizing an event with third-party funds or sponsorship, do not approach the potential sponsor until you have a clear budget in your head. Here's what happens. You will need to convince yourself before convincing others that your event is financially viable. The most traditional budget model is one that defines cost and revenues in three broad categories: pessimistic, realistic, and optimistic. Pessimism or optimism comes from your expectation of revenue. That is, whether you'll be a poorer event or richer in financial terms. You estimate the items you need, estimate the prices, calculate how much comes out in total for the units you need, and there you go, you have the budgets. The problem with current standard event budgeting. I don't perceive much value in this model because you have to make a decision on which budget you will start your events from, and you rarely start an event with a pessimistic mentality. If you do, there is something wrong, right? So it isn't that useful. If you start your event with an optimistic perspective, you will likely count on unexpected, unrealistic revenue, which will be followed by expenses that you just can't afford yet. And by unrealistic, I mean that it's not part of your actual reality, not that it's unattainable. Furthermore, it does not give a sense of priorities. Cool? Anyone who has worked as responsible for finance knows that you have to count on the judgment of whoever is requesting their purchase. You have to rely that the person knows what is best. Another option is for you to have a little bit of business knowledge to assess the purchase priority. This budget model has no defined priorities for you to work on. With that in mind, I started working with another budget model, which I call the ladder of budgeting. This is a model that will help you, especially if you are a beginner, to set priorities and understand where you should start thinking about your budget and where you should start spending. In this model, in a ladder-like shape, there are three steps, each representing where you should allocate your efforts first, precisely with the intention of giving priority. The levels are basic, expected, and a cherry on top. At the basic level, you would think about your basic infrastructure like chairs, booths, water, electricity, etc. The most basic of infrastructure. Think like your audience will complain about if you don't have it. Correspond roughly to the first 3.5 points in your review. Here's what happens. There is no point in hiring a musical performance, for example, if there is no minimum structure, right? The fact that your audience had to spend 4 hours sitting on the hard floor or standing will bring your evaluation to a low grade. At the expected level, we are talking about what is standard in your industry for your audience. What are the items that your audience will comment on if it's absent, but they will complain if it's missing? It's about what they are used to and already expect from your type of events. It also refers to what they already expect from your events, especially if you are executing on recurring events. Your audience may not complain that there was no coffee served but they will put it on the evaluation form as "it would be nice to have coffee." This guarantees your next 1 point in your reviews. If you do the basic and expect it well done, and the delivery of the event is great, you may reach a 5 out of 5, no doubt. In cherry on top, we are talking about extra things. What your event will be remembered for, or it's perceived as going for the extra mile. That is, no one will comment that you bought a cherry colored satin ribbon for your coffee break table, but it will give a feeling of harmony, unity, and comfort to the overall decoration of your event. This, which is superfluous, is under the cherry on top. The cherry on top does not need to be difficult or expensive. It's just not the obvious. It is often in the details. Your event could easily be organized without it, but the consistent presence of these details is what differentiates a good organizer from an ordinary one. The problem is that many people get lost and think about it first or want to put their efforts here. And by effort, I mean money. And I get it. It's way nicer and more entertaining as an organizer. Nobody has fun renting tables and chairs, but focus on your goal. You need to keep in mind that why you're organizing an event in the first place. As a material for this lesson, you'll find a letter of budgeting template for your events. Now let's see how to work with this budget framework. This video is taken from my event planning and organization course framework that I've created, and I've created a template that you can find on the attached PDF file. Okay, this is an explanation, the basics, expected, the cherry on top. So this basic, there is no even without it. It guarantees the first 10 points on your ratings. People will complain about it if you don't have. Usually it's all about the minimum structure. Okay, the expected is the standard for your audience. So aren't the things that people complain about it, but they will suggest if you don't have it. And if you have something that they are suggesting, obviously it won't be never the cherry on top of your event. It's all about what people already expect of your type of event. They will not complain about it if it's missing, but they will actively suggest it. And the cherry on top, what's really extra, your event may be remembered by it. It doesn't have to be expensive or hard to implement. It's just not the obvious route, and it's very easy to get lost and do it first because it tends to be the most fun part. This is a very simple way of budgeting your event. You have the item, how much you're gonna spend on it, the cost per unit or the overall cost that is here. This is the most basic form, but I have created a template for the budget that you can click here and you go right to these documents. Okay, so this is the dashboard, very basic dashboard, but then you have the overview where you have the total spent and the total earned. This is obviously, since it's on Google Drive, then it's live. You have the budget scenarios comparison, so the total projected on basics and how you actually have spent. This is obviously, since the expected is already being spent on, I don't know if this is a phrase that I can use. Here you have actually a savings towards, because you projected $6,000, $6,400, and you have spent like $4,400. So you have a savings here. And this is budget categories comparison. I've created here on the third tab, I created all the categories, but obviously you can add more, you can delete what you don't use. It's just for your own organization. The template is also in reais, which is the currency in Brazil, but you can change it to your own currency. So this is actual budget. The first column where you'll be putting what is expected, what is basic. And it's important for you to put the basics first and expecting the cherry for the last, so the dashboard will be correct. And then you have the item, you have the category. You can use this as an examples of what I usually have. And this I put like actual cost of how much it costs in Brazil, but you have to do your own research. And here the owner, I mean the responsible for this item,
for purchasing this item or who is planning this item for them. Here I didn't put anyone, but it's important for your own organization to have this kind of information. Quantity, unit cost, here I have formula. If you don't know how to work with spreadsheets, then please use it wisely. And then I have this is the projected costs, and these are the actual costs. So you can see that I haven't paid for the booth infrastructure here yet. I have only put how much I am expected to spend on it, but I haven't purchased anything here yet. And for example, the venue rental, I put like it's 5,000 reais, but I have actually spent 3,000 reais. If you want to put like, for example, an upgrade, let's see, food and drinks is cherry on top, and I'm expecting to spend like 8 reais for each person. Here's a 150 people event. I can put like food extra here, and then like put another $2. Okay, and then 15, and then here you just do this. So as a cherry on top, I'll be adding $2 more to my food expenditure. Okay, and here below you have your revenue streams, your sponsorship quotas, quota 1, quota 2, quota 3, and sales ticketing. The category here was manually inserted. Here the categories, they are from the other tab as a drop-down list. And I have the quantity, the units, and what was actually sold. All right. So this is a very simple budget template, but I hope it helps. The link you can find here on the last page of the PDF file.
Cool. It's important to remember that event budgeting is essentially the projection of all revenue and cost related to the development and delivery of your event. To help you manage your event finances efficiently, it's interesting that you have a live budget for your event, that is, a place where you can have real-time status. Some practical tips on budgeting. First of all, don't split your budget file into different parts, especially across different platforms. Keep it in one file. If it's your first time hosting an event, it can be an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Drive, and use file version 2. You will never plan enough contingency plans. Still, try hard. Present your budget clearly so that it's easy to read and to interpret. Keep a clear structure. Be realistic. Do not include sources of revenue that are unlikely to happen. Each and every item of revenue and expenses must be inserted. I always prefer to be conservative with ticketing sales. When getting to this topic, make sure that you have the actual number of tickets that you have to sell to achieve the expected revenue. Been there, done that. Writing down the expected sales but not translating it into a goal of expected sold ticket units. It is important that you have a record of the value of any in-kind partnership. Always have a backup of your budget file, as well as a record of older versions. Cool? Better than that, just twice that. To recap what we've learned in this lesson: how to set up your budget following the ladder of budgeting. We saw a guide on how to use the budget templates. Finally, some basic tips on how to prepare your budget and considerations. In the next lesson on how to guarantee the experience of your audience, we will learn what a successful experience is, the role of your team in guaranteeing the experience, and how to create an event structure for a remarkable experience. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel to follow the lessons. Like this lesson if you think it can help you, and share with your colleagues and co-workers. It will help me a lot, really. Always look both ways. See you in the future.